Welcome to the AFC South. I am your host, Mike Patton. And if you're watching live, you notice that I'm joined by a few special guests. Yes, this is not your normal average show from touring the AFC South because it's draft time. So I figured why not pick up the phone and reach out to a few folks to talk about a few different teams in the AFC South. Of course, that means the Tennessee Titans. That means the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Houston Texans, and the Indianapolis Colts. I listed them last, but they're not least, of course. But what I can say is there's definitely been a lot of intrigue, a lot of excitement, a lot of people that have been throwing things at the TV as well during this draft. Well, of course, we're going to talk about it right now, right here. 2022 NFL Draft AFC South recap. Of course, we're going to go through the first 6 rounds. We're not going to talk about the 7th round, just to give you a heads up and a little bit of, heads up there. But of course, I'm going to introduce you to who all I've got with me today. First up, he is the man with the plan. They did all 32 draft breakdowns for the teams in the NFL. Yes, that is a lot of work, but he did it. He is also a guy that did a mock draft for this draft as well. None other than Mr. Courtlandt Griffin. What's going on, man?
Nothing, man. Just enjoying this draft weekend, man.
Well, of course, if you don't know already, if you're watching, of course, Courtlandt Griffin is going to be representing the Tennessee Titans as he's showing us all now. But but yes, we will be talking. He will be representing the Tennessee Titans in this draft recap. Of course, I'm going to go now a little bit further south. Of course, to the wonderful place of Florida. We have someone representing again for the 3-point conversion and a few other different places. A guy that has been there and seen this team with his own 2 eyes. He has seen the good times and he has seen the bad times. And bad times and good times. I mean, the clown dress up thing, that was the good times, and the bad times being the Urban Meyer hire. But, I digress. I'll get off of that one. But anyway, bringing in from the 3-point conversion, Mr. Kyle Nash. What's going on, man?
What's good, General? Hey, at the end of the day, Trevor Lawrence can make throws. It's just the scheme that. Anyways, yeah, I'm here, ready to do this draft thing. What can I say?
Man, we're just gonna, throw it in the air and hope for the best, man. Hope it flies, right?
That's right. That's right.
All right. As far as my next special guest, he is someone that has a ton of experience talking radio. He's probably got more experience than we got years in the game combined. And he is, but in a funny way, I just said, hey, he's a very wise person. And he's down in H-Town where the Houston Texans are. Yes, we're going to talk about that Houston Texans team. We can't just avoid them. We know they're in the division. Representing for the Houston Texans today, Mr. AJ Jones. What's going on, man?
What's going on, man? And I need a disclaimer. I am covering the Texans. I am not a fan of the Texans. Please just get that out there. If this is my last breath, I need that out there. I need that on my epitaph.
Here. Hey, I know that life. I'm in it too, man.
Yeah, but glad to be here, man. Glad to be rocking with you fellas.
We're glad to have you. And, of course, last but not least, I don't want to leave the Colts out, even though he may think I leave the Colts out a lot, which I don't. But he is actually from Jacksonville, which is going to shock a lot of people. But he is an Indianapolis Colts fan, but he's more than that. He actually has been doing a podcast, the Drop Balls podcast. Y'all get your mind out the gutters. It's talking about receivers dropping passes, y'all. Good gracious. But he is Mr. Chris Lewis. What's going on, man?
What's up, Mike? Thanks for having me on today, man.
Yes, sir. I know you got a lot to talk about, but of course, up first, I want to talk about the Houston Texans. Yes, we want to go first to Houston.
Wait a minute. Jacksonville picked first. They had the number 1 pick.
I know, but I kind of just want to go to Houston first because I just H-Town, you got Bun B down there, you got Papados down there. I mean, it just sounds more enjoyable.
Yeah. Now look, that's what represents right there. Bun B and them cats, man. You got them. You got them.
So going over their draft, of course, they shocked a lot of people by picking Derek Stingley Jr. 3rd overall, cornerback out of LSU.
Yep.
They got, of course, 15th overall, offensive guard Kenyon Green, Texas A&M. 37th overall, 2nd round, safety Jalen Petre from Baylor. 44th overall, wide receiver John Mechie III, Alabama. Yeah, we're going to say that a lot probably. Well, we might. But we got 75th overall, linebacker Christian Harris from Alabama. Yeah, we got 107th overall, running back Damian Pierce from Florida. 150th overall, 5th round, defensive end Thomas Booker, Stanford. 170th overall, tight end Tegan Quentin. I'm sorry if I butcher your name if you're listening, Tegan. But Tegan Quintanamo, I believe that's how you say his last name.
Quatoriano.
Okay, there we go. Tongue twister there. But he's from Oregon State. And 206th overall, 6th round, offensive lineman Austin Deculus from LSU. Now, what stood out for you the most on this one, AJ, about this draft?
That they really wanted Derek Stingley Jr. I mean, they wanted him at all costs. They literally passed up prime edge rushing that they have not had since J.J. Watt's prime. Not since J.J. Watt, but since J.J. Watt's prime to get Derek Stingley Jr. And that's just how bad they wanted him. And one thing about Nick Caserio, since he's been here, is that he wants everybody to know that it's Nick Caserio's show. Now, in the background, you got Jack Used to Be and you got Cal McNair, but it is Nick Caserio's show, and he wanted Derek Stingley Jr. at all costs.
Boy, oh boy. I got to say I was shocked with that one. I thought they would probably go Evan Neal there.
I mean, if they want O-line, there was value at O-line at number 3. There was definitely value, on the defensive side with edge rushing. Because think about it. I don't care how good of a cornerback you are. If you've got to cover for 6-7 minutes on one play, it's just not going to happen. But when you got someone who can get to the quarterback, it makes everybody on that defense better. And, again, they decided that he was number 1 on their board, and that's who they went with because he was available right there.
Yeah, I don't know what to say about that. I mean, they're expecting a lot from him.
Let me ask this, AJ, if I can. When you're in the situation that the Texans are in, I feel like it's a situation where you just need playmakers, period. And especially in a division like the AFC South, where you have both Indianapolis and the Titans in play, right? Jonathan Taylor and Derrick Henry. You need guys that can tackle that are also outside. Me personally, I liked Sauce Gardner a little better, but that's my American Athletic Conference bias. But I think they had a guy high on their board, and like you said, they really wanted him. He was high on the board. He was the best all-around player, and he would be guaranteed to start immediately. From that standpoint, I see it. And I mean, later in that same round, they did address the offensive line. They did get a pick there. So when you look at it in context to what they did with the rest of the draft process, it's not as bad. But listen, I could see them doing what they did with Stingley. It was the Jets coming right behind with a back-to-back corner pick that made it crazy for me. Yeah.
Right. And Kyle, to your point, I get that Stingley probably wouldn't have been there at 13.
Right.
But Sauce Gardner, who is a true lockdown corner, if you remember that game against Bama, Cincinnati got handled, but Sauce Gardner shut down half of the field against Alabama.
And Nick Saban even said he was trying to throw away from him. I mean, that's right.
So if the pick was Sauce Gardner, I wouldn't be saying anything about the pick. because the pick was Derek Stingley Jr., who literally got picked based on his freshman film. Because what has he done consistently since then? He hadn't been consistently healthy. Gardner has. And Gardner made Nick Saban say, we ain't throwing over there. Right. So, again, it was, and right, wrong, or indifferent, Nick Caserio says, that's who we're picking. And whoever said anything different in the room, they got Derek Stingley Jr. They did get their offensive line help later on down the line, and then they kind of addressed the defense. If you're telling me that with Harris and with Booker, that took care of the hole that this team had on defense, I'm going to tell you, there was a question that a local reporter asked Nick Caserio straight to his face. Why should the fan base trust you to be able to turn this organization around? Ooh. And he had no legitimate answer, and this didn't solve it for him.
That's the kind of stuff I saw in the press asked of one Urban Meyer during the season last year. Dang.
Ooh, we're not mentioning that name today. I'm sorry.
I'm going to call him Voldemort. I had to suffer it.
Okay. All right. We'll give you that. But I do have one thing I want to mention, though. I want to ask. Okay. So they believe in Davis Mills to be the guy. They want to help him be the guy. How does drafting a running back in the 4th round when they have no running back, and John Mechie, I love him when he was healthy, but he's coming off a knee injury going into this season. How does that help him? I know Kenyon Green protection, that helps. But other than that, I'm trying to figure out what all offensively did they do to help him. I don't think they did very much at all.
No, and that's the thing. If Davis Mills is your guy, then he needed more than this. And it then brings into question what they're going to end up doing with Laramie Tunsil, what they're going to do with Titus Howard, and what they're going to do with guys that they recently invested in to go along with what they brought in, yesterday, today, and the day before. So, again, if Davis Mills is your guy, then you got to give Davis Mills the help he needs to be successful. Remember, at the end of last season, it was David Johnson and Rex Burkhead as RB1 and RB2. There's no way in the world you can tell me that they thought that they were going to compete in the AFC, let alone in the AFC South, let alone the AFC with that running back crew. As far as wide receivers go, them bringing Brandon Cooks back was the big get. So now they need wide receiver 2, slot wide receiver, and some depth. And, possibly that's why the pick for Mechie is not as bad as it may seem. He doesn't have to come in and be the man. He doesn't have to come in and be number 2. He just has to come in, get healthy, and then now they've got a diamond in the rough.
Didn't they sign a running back?
They did. Yeah, they did.
Because I think they got Marlon Mack. I mean, I know he's coming, 2 years removed from his Achilles injury, but
right. And that's the hope that Marlon Mack can be RB1, and then they can find somebody to fill in that gap at RB2 and RB3. They're not going to carry 4 running backs on the active roster. Week after week.
I think Damian Pierce was pretty good. He's a great pass blocker and everything too.
I think
but here's the thing: he's a rookie, guys, and what's typically said about most rookies. It's not what they can do; it's the stuff that they, don't realize they have to do, like pick up blitzes and things like that. So, and again, that's a lot to ask for a secondary, because remember, we had Kareem Jackson, who Rick Smith put him in day one, and he developed into a Pro Bowl defensive back. Can Stingley do that, and can they expect to get that out of a rookie running back that they got in the later rounds?
That's where my question comes, because when I looked at Derek Stingley, right, I understand that his freshman tape was phenomenal, right? Like
off the chart, right?
People were deeming him the next coming of Deion Sanders or whoever, your shutdown corner of your choice. But my thing is with Derek Stingley is, though he had the injuries and had a down year, his ceiling to me is carbon copy, bigger, heavier, harder, like harder hitting version of Darrelle Revis. Now, if he develops into that, now and if Sauce Gardner, who we've seen the Jets do this before, D. Milliner coming out of Alabama in 2010, you get what I'm saying? Like he goes to New York and everyone's like, oh, he's the next coming. He's the shutdown guy, and he fizzles out. And he had the same kind of intangibles, the same measurables as what Sauce Gardner has. Derek Stingley actually has in LSU, and normally LSU DBs come into the league and develop pretty well. If you look at Christian Fulton and the rest of those guys that have come into the league. So my question is if he develops into what his freshman tape showed he can be, are we having a different conversation?
I think because of the lack of leadership in that secondary, I mean, they don't have Justin Reed back there. They don't have Hargraves back there. They don't have some of the guys that were there to kind of give him, some leadership, some mentorship, and some direction. Bad play after bad play, and there's gonna be bad plays. When he's got to come in and be the man, that's a lot to ask. Right. And look at the quarterbacks in the AFC South. Look at the quarterbacks in the AFC. He's going to get picked on a lot. So either he's going to be at least what he was his freshman year, or it's going to be a long couple of years.
Definitely.
That's the part I hate. Yeah, that's the part where I said I'd like Sauce Gardner better. Like Stingley feels like a lottery ticket, whereas Sauce Gardner, say what you will about schemes and all this. Here's what I know when I watched it personally covering UCF, right? They would leave him and Kobe Bryant, not spelled the same, by the way.
Right.
Kobe Bryant on islands.
Right.
And just let the defensive front do the work. And I don't care if they were, and they just happened to be, by the way, pretty good. Maybe not as good as you might think, but good. And they would leave Bryant and Gardner on islands. And to use a third overall pick on a lottery ticket instead of a sure thing is why I don't buy it. I'm sure we'll talk about the same concept later.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I think with Stingley, they went off freshman tape and everything, but I think he fits Lovey's defense more than Sauce does, and Sauce fits the jet scheme a lot more than Stingley would. With Sauce, he's one of those long, rangy corners. And if we know anything about Saleh, he's from that Pete Carroll tree where they love those long, rangy corners. And also they love their corners that can press bail. And I think that's why, I think with that, and like you said, Stingley probably wouldn't be there at 13 when the Texans had to pick again.
Right.
So I think that was kind of where they was like, okay, we got to get our guy right now. And
I think the bigger pick, a lot of the attention is on Stingley. I think the bigger pick is Petrie. If Petrie can come in and hold down one of those safety spots and literally hold it down, because like him or not, Justin Reed left a huge gap in that secondary. And watch this. And he hadn't quite filled the gap that they had with Tyrann Mathieu, who they literally did not make an offer to keep. There should have been a lot more attention than that. So if Petrie can help fill the gap that was not quite filled coming from Tyrann Mathieu, then everything else will kind of take care of itself.
Yeah, and Petrie coming out of Baylor, he was heavily in his own concept as well. So
he
fits that Lovie Smith defense, whereas the safety that can drop back in zone and everything, come up and play nickel and come back in zone and everything like that too.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. And if they can start bringing him down in that box and sealing off the run some, then the edge rushing doesn't have to be everything that it was when they had a healthy J.J. Watt and some of the other guys.
Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, a lot of intrigue, a lot of questions going on with the Houston Texans. But, of course, there's another team that has a lot of questions and intrigue going on, and that's the Jacksonville Jaguars. It started with the first overall pick that nobody knew who they were going to take. Now, I thought they would take Aiden Hutchinson, but they flip-flopped on us, and they took Trayvon Walker. And you know what this pick meant? This pick meant that Trent Baalke has ultimate power in that organization because he wanted Trayvon Walker, not the owner. So that's what's the thing there. And also what he sees in him is 6'5", 272 pounds, and he sees an Aldon Smith clone. That's why he wanted him.
That's true.
But, as far as that, of course, going with the rest of their picks, they've got, of course, 20th overall, they had inside linebacker Devin Lloyd from Utah. 65th overall, 3rd round, center Luke Fortner, who will be a starter in my opinion. 70th overall, inside linebacker Chad Muma, Wyoming. You got 5th round, 154th overall, running back Snoop Connor. And of course, 6th round, 197th overall, cornerback Gregory Jr. from Ouachita Baptist.
Hey, you nailed that one. All right.
That's
Man. Yeah, well, wherever it is, the league found him.
Yeah.
But what I can say is, I kind of was the Aiden Hutchinson guy. I actually went on, y'all know, I went on brother from another, and I thought they would go Hutchinson. Of course, I was wrong. It is what it is. Can't get everything right, but in him, they better hope he comes out swinging, because think about the people, the resources they put into 1st round draft picks. Josh Allen, then you've got Chason, and now you've got Trayvon Walker. So that's a lot of equity in edge rushers. So he better come out and be the guy, or Trent Baalke is on the clock real quick, to me. And as far as another pick I do like, though, I do like 2 picks I do like that they made, though. Devin Lloyd and Luke Fortner. Because Luke Fortner, they had nobody at center. Linder retired, so they need somebody there. They signed the backup center back, but he's not going to really move the needle. So may as well start with the rookie instead of a veteran that couldn't start. So, and Lloyd will be a running partner for Foyside Olukan. Yes, I've been working on that name, y'all.
You were.
But
Well done.
But yes, I think he'll be a running partner for him. Chad Muma, I think we're more of a special teams guy. But that's just me. But Kyle, I come to you. What is the feeling about Trayvon Walker down there in Jacksonville?
I mean, listen, here's what I can tell you for a fact is Jaguars fans have been driven to drink by this team, and all the Trayvon Walker pick did was have them order another. I was hosting a Thursday night draft show with Nuts and Bolts Sports, and both the analysts on the show, Jeff Barnes and Bill Carroll, said that Trayvon Walker was the biggest reach in the entire draft, and they even included the Cowboys pick at 23 with Tyler Smith. Okay, but listen, all joking aside, you and I, sir, have observed Trent Baalke not only ruin the Jags, but do what he did to the Niners as well. So we know the pain of a Baalke-led franchise, and please don't get me started on the fan agony of him being the reason they didn't get Byron Leftwich as a head coach. Baalke will continue to, air quotes, damage this organization as far as the fan base is concerned, and there's really no help to that unless somehow they turn this into W's. And let's put it honestly, gentlemen, in a division where the top of the division have taken a step back. No offense, Courtlandt. But all of the above being said, it's hard for me to predict where things are going, because this team is going to have a fundamental culture change on top of everything else. Gentlemen, Trevor Lawrence was making passes and doing his job as a youth, but the rest of the organization was having real problems with everything that went on with Urban Meyer, and I'm pretty sure we don't know about all of it yet. All of the above to be said, I feel like the thought in question is to get guys that are big and long. Yeah, sure, rushing the passer is great. They have Josh Allen for that primarily. But if you're in the AFC South, the way I'm going to try to, air quotes, rationalize this pick, because I don't exactly love it too. I was a Hutchinson guy as well. Back to that conversation about you don't take out a dang lottery ticket on the 1st round pick. You get the sure thing who is going to start in attack. I think the thought process is somebody with length, somebody with size in a division where you have
There we go.
So close.
This is where you have
4
physical running backs. Basically, is what he's probably going to say.
Yeah, well, not just physical running backs, but one that are the crux of the entire team's offense, right? Jonathan Taylor and Derrick Henry are the reason that pick was made. Congratulations, gentlemen. Your intimidation made the Jags continue to stink. No, but all that in mind, I'm with you too, General, on the 2 picks you pointed out. Were they? And listen, if it were up to me, I would not have extended Cam Robinson. I would have drafted Evan Neal. Okay, but pardon my bias. You see the painting behind me, an original by a former NFL lineman and UCF lineman. Okay, I'll just say. But All the above being, I mean, listen, at the end of the day, Devin Lloyd and Luke Fortner, I mean, they're my favorite picks too. At least they made a good pick. They didn't find themselves reeling after the first night. They got a lottery ticket and a sure thing at some point in the first round. After ordering the drink early in it, they started to slow down a bit after they made the pick, number 27 there.
Yeah, it just I don't know. I didn't another pick I have the question about. I don't know if anybody else has a question, but this pick made me scratch my head. You have two running backs already, one coming off injury, and you have one that is, he's coming off injury too, but he's your guy. Then you go draft Snoop Connor, a guy that can't catch the football, but he can sure run it.
He can run it.
Can you tell me the logic? Can you please explain to me the logic?
I mean, no, but what I'm going to try to say is, listen, if you're in the 5th round, guys, best available versus need. In the words of the great and wise Brian Billick, need is a horrible evaluator of talent. If he feels like Snoop can do his thing and drop some beats to get into the running back room, someone had to make the dad joke, AJ. I'm sorry. But
I caught it.
But hey, I want to say nothing. You didn't shake your head. I had to defend myself. No, I'm kidding. But seriously, I really think that's the justification. At that point, they were. I don't know, because with all the free agency moves they had made at receiver, keeping Cam Robinson and extending him, picking up the option on Josh Allen, they had done a lot of work already going into it. Perhaps the 5th round was seen as a bit of a luxury pick, and they saw a guy they wanted to take a shot with. That's the best I can really do to explain it.
Well, one place they didn't take a shot was definitely the defensive line, which, to me, in terms not the edge rushers, but the interior, where they were one of the worst teams at stopping the run, yet they didn't draft one guy to help stop the run. And what is going on?
Hey, listen, I do data for a living, and I can pull some factors out of my keister like no one else. Hey, Jonathan Taylor twice a year. Hey, Derrick Henry twice a year. Hey, listen, they play a lot of run-strong teams. The 49ers came out and played them and had a 13-minute drive. In fairness, it resulted only in a field goal, but at the end of the day, that's going to make your numbers look bad. But you still need a defensive tackle. I completely agree.
So here's my thing. Mike. Like, I understand. Like, I got a lot of flack for when I did my draft profile for the Jaguars, from a lot of insiders and a lot of people that have been doing this a lot longer than I have, right? But I had Jordan Davis going. With the number 1 pick. Why? For that exact reason. You have to go against Derrick Henry. You have to go against, Jonathan Taylor. Then on top of that, you knew the Titans were going to probably try to go and get another backup guy to back up Derrick Henry. And then on top of that, you got Nyheim Hines in Indianapolis, who also emerged as a runner last year. So you got two teams who have a possible 2-headed monster, and then you have another team that has a legit 2-headed monster. And like you said, you play against your division. You play to win the division, and then the rest of the league, you win where you can. And I felt like Jordan Davis was that guy. I felt like Jordan Davis is the best interior defensive lineman in the draft. He's probably the best D lineman in the draft, arguably, if you want to say pure D lineman, not edge rusher, just pure D lineman. He's a space eater, and that Georgia defense was immaculate last year. Is probably the most legendary defense that you can, besides Miami, back in the 2000s. I honestly feel like they dropped the ball. You had two options, like you said. You had two sure things that you could pick. I felt like it was either Jordan Davis or Aiden Hutchinson, and you missed on both of them, and you took the potential. I just don't see. I just don't see what Balky was thinking on that. Like I don't know where his mind was. I think he like Mike said, he took the potential. He took the I saw this guy. I drafted a guy like this once before,
right?
And it panned out.
All I can say, Courtland, is you didn't get any response negative from me. Now, did you?
No. I'm not saying from you. I'm saying like,
no. I know you're not. I'm telling you, I see your standpoint.
I got ate alive, and I didn't feel bad about it, but I'm very firm in my takes. But I'm just like, man, like that. When I seen what they actually did, and I started hearing the Trayvon Walker like takes, I was like, man, because I had Trayvon Walker linked to Atlanta. I was like, man, that would be great. That he's a great pick for Atlanta. It makes sense for Atlanta.
Absolutely.
But
Right.
for Jacksonville, it's like, man, you play in a division where you got to not only go against mobile quarterbacks.
Hey, listen, Drake is the only person who guessed Trayvon Walker, and he won a healthy amount of money doing it. All right, that's all we can say, guys. I got nothing for you.
I will say this about Jacksonville. I don't know. Like, so for the past 2 weeks, you can ask Mike. I've been saying Trayvon Walker is going to the Jags. Like, that's who the Jags are going to pick. And even the day of the draft, I said I think the Jags are taking Trayvon Walker, and Aiden Hutchinson or Kayvon is going to Detroit. But with the Trayvon Walker thing, I think what Balky was doing, like y'all said, he was trying to recapture what he did with the 49ers. He drafted a guy like that one time before, and it worked out. And the thing with Georgia, it's very do your job specific on their defense. And so Trayvon Walker wasn't able to flash all of his skills, his skill set. And I think with Balky and what they were thinking is that, okay, we have this guy who wasn't able to flash everything, but he has those tools in his repertoire. And I don't know how it'll pan out. But like y'all said, you know, in a conference or in a division where you got to go against potentially two-headed monsters 2 times a year, you need somebody that's going to be able to stop that run. And I don't know. The last game, Jacksonville and the Colts, maybe they figured, oh, we might have it because they were stuffing Jonathan Taylor all game. So I don't know. I don't know how they feel about that, but I don't know. Maybe that's what they were thinking. I really don't know. I'm not in the head of Trent Baalke. So,
but here's another thing. Here's another thing that you got to look at too. And this is I love this pick by Jacksonville, by the way. I had him mocked to the Tennessee Titans in my mock draft, but they took Montarique Brown with their last pick. And if you look at what Montarique Brown is, he's a perfect mirror corner. You traded away C.J. Henderson after spending the first round pick on him, and now you get a guy who's equally as talented as a 7th-round pick who can come in and be your starter alongside Shaquille Griffin. That to me is a very strong pick for a team that needs secondary help as well as defensive line help. And that'll also help Trayvon Walker assimilate into the league if he does not have to rush against, stout NFL tackles. If he doesn't, have the tools yet, the counter moves and whatever, that'll also give him time to get to the quarterback, and that'll inflate his numbers, because that's what helped Aldon Smith in San Francisco. They had a very strong secondary, right? So,
that was going to be my point. I wasn't, again, Courtland said it. All I was going to say was, if you give Montarique Brown a fair shot, he's not only going to make the team, but he should start. That's all I was going to say. But Courtland, you said it a whole lot more eloquently than I would have.
And I love Devin Lloyd. I love Devin Lloyd. One of the best cover linebackers in this draft. So that was big for them as well. I mean, Muma, I don't know what's going to happen with him, but he can also cover. So, I think that was a good pickup, but I don't know. I don't know about number 1, but I know those two were pretty good.
At worst, Muma becomes a 3rd-round nickel sub linebacker. I don't think you want to put him in there on 1st and 2nd down against the top of the division, because you're going to get him demolished and washed a lot, and it's going to make him look really, really bad. And we saw that happen with Miles Jack, which is why now he's a Pittsburgh Steeler.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I still hated that Miles Jack's not there, but I will say this though. One of three things I'm going to name: the Jacksonville Jaguars, Krispy Kreme donuts, and Dunkin' Donuts. What do they all have in common? Any answers?
They all soft and sweet. I don't know.
No. Well,
this guy. Have you seen the defensive line in Tennessee lately? I'm just saying.
Oh my gosh.
But if you notice, they have an actual outside to them, and they all have nothing in the middle. This team has nothing in the middle defensively. So there we go. I'll be starring as Zanies in the future, okay? But
all I'll say is this: this is not the worst draft in the division, and the Jags fans should be thankful at least you have that.
Oh yeah, it's not.
Well, let's keep going.
Oh, you think so, AJ? Okay.
All right. We're gonna go to the Tennessee Titans, but of course, first we do have to talk about the trade. The Tennessee Titans traded their number one receiver, A.J. Brown, to the Philadelphia Eagles. And, of course, they got a pick out of it, which turned into Treylon Burks. But, really, it's almost like you're swapping one receiver for another. And, of course, A.J. Brown gets the 4-year, $100 million extension with $57 million guaranteed. Now, for those that don't know, me, Courtlandt, and Kyle are all in the same chat. And when it happened, I will say to a certain somebody, Courtlandt, okay, was not necessarily the happiest about it. But, I think he understands it more now than it actually when it happened. So I'm going to let you kind of go into what your thoughts are on when that happened and what your thoughts are now.
So at first, my feelings got ahead of me like a lot of Titans fans did. But I had to take my fan hat off, put my analyst hat on, and understand the business side of it, but also both sides. So I had to look at, okay, A.J. Brown is looking at 1,000 yards 2 years in a row. I was hurt last year, but I was on pace. I think he had like 865 or something like that, somewhere in there. And I think around six touchdowns. So like if you give him the extra 6 games that he missed, he's somewhere in the 1,200, maybe 10 touchdown, 12 touchdown range, right? So he's looking at Christian Kirk just got a haul from, they just backed up the Brinks truck in Jacksonville for Christian Kirk. Devontae Adams is getting paid. My man's Cheetah. I can't think of his name. Tyreek Hill just went to the Dolphins.
Stephon Diggs too. You can add him to that too.
Yeah, Stephon Diggs is getting paid, and then on top of that, Deebo Samuels is 9 times out of 10 either going to get traded and get paid or get paid. So like he's looking at, I need insurance, I need that policy, I need that reassurance that I'm worth it. Tennessee didn't want to give him that. And when you look at it from the Tennessee side, we've never really valued the wide receiver position as the highest graded position, right? Derek Mason leaves. We let Derek Mason walk and go to Baltimore. You know what I'm saying? Like we let Kevin Dyson go to the Chargers and get paid. This is just a overarching thing with Tennessee. But when you look at it from their side, 2 bad knees, 2 bad hamstrings, a bad ankle, drop tendencies, not consistently healthy. Are you really worth $25 million, AJ? You know what I'm saying? So like, hey, okay, cool. We gave you an offer of $16 million with the possibility to make 20. We'd rather just trade you off and then go and get a guy who we can pay $4 million a year. You know what I'm saying, for the next 4 years, and then see what he does and pans out. So I understand where we were with it. I understand where the fan side of it was with the feelings, because of course this is probably the best receiver that we've ever had in Titans history. And then you just let him walk. It seemed like you let him walk for nothing. But when you really look at it, he turned into Treylon Burks. He turned into Roger McCreary. He turned into Nick Petit-Frere, and then he also turned into Malik Willis. That's a franchise, transforming trade. When you look at one guy leaving, 4 guys, and you basically transform your draft from having just 6 picks to, I think, getting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 picks. So like this is, like you basically transformed your draft.
Yeah, I get it. I'll tell you what, it's definitely interesting. It's definitely going to be an interesting conversation as we go on, because more people are going to continue to keep eyes on Treylon Burks. I'm not gonna say whose name it was, but somebody did call me and was the most mad I've ever heard him as a Titans fan. But not you, Courtlandt. It was somebody else. I'm not gonna mention his name. I'm pretty sure.
How many Titans fans do you know?
Well, so of course,
I'm pretty sure the Rolodex is full.
But also, right. So of course, I heard this for about a good 10 minutes. So, yeah, but I'm pretty sure he's gonna recognize this part when he listens to this. But that's neither here nor there. But what I will say is, it definitely wasn't a bad draft for the Titans. They get Treylon Burks, like we just mentioned, wide receiver from Arkansas. Some people see him as A.J. Brown light. We've got Roger McCreary, Auburn defensive back, 2nd round, 35th overall. 69th overall offensive tackle, Nicholas Petit-Ferrer from Ohio State. I got Malik Willis, big move, 86th overall, 3rd round. Could potentially be your future first string QB. You got 131st overall running back Hassan Haskins, the big man, the bully from Michigan.
Yeah.
Then you've got 143rd overall tight end. Can you say his name for me, Courtlandt? Because I'm just messing it all up.
Chig Okonkwo.
Thank you. From Maryland, and he is a Jonnu Smith clone, from what some people say. And for those that don't know who Jonnu Smith is, look on the New England Patriots, but look at his numbers when he was with the Titans. And of course, they also ran handback sweeps with him and stuff like that too. Another pick I did like from them though, 163rd overall wide receiver Kyle Phillips from UCLA, slot guy, bingo, slot guy right there. And of course, 204th overall safety Theo Jackson, who is actually from Nashville, John Overton High School, went to play for Knoxville for Tennessee Vols. Now it's coming back to Nashville to start his NFL career. And of course, 6th round, we got Chance Campbell, linebacker, Ole Miss. To be honest, I do like the draft. I definitely like the pick of Malik Willis because honestly, I wondered were they going to get an actual guy that would take over for Ryan Tannehill as soon as possibly next year. And I think Malik Willis has the tools to do that. And this allows him the opportunity to kind of look, observe, get used to the system, grow in the system, and just step in when he's ready, a la how Trey Lance is more than likely going to do in San Francisco. So I definitely think that was a good move. Now, I will tell you, I like Theo Jackson. I just don't know if I like the move for them there. But really, you're in the 6th round, so you're taking chances there anyway. I mean, I get it. I get the move, but hey, it's just me thinking outside the box just a little bit more. But I'm pretty sure Courtland's probably gonna tell me where I'm wrong with the safety pick of Theo Jackson. But,
no, so here's the thing with this draft, right? If you look at it from top to bottom, the Titans really pretty much made future picks, but also guys that make impacts right now. So Treylon Burks, of course, comes in. He's probably not going to be a 1,000-yard receiver. I say he's anywhere between 700 and 850. Might probably gives you 5 to 6 touchdowns as a rookie. He's 6'4", 225 pounds. Of course, he is not 6 foot, 232 pounds like the compact brick house that AJ Brown was, but they carry about the same impact when it comes to yards after catch. Whereas Treylon Burks gives you more of a jump ball guy, red zone target. Right. Now, like Roger McCreary is the most puzzling pick here. I thought for sure that was going to be a tackle and or Malik Willis or Desmond Ridder, but I understand the pick now because you have unsureness with the injury and the return potential of Caleb Farley that we drafted last year. So when you look at that, Roger McCreary is a great mirror corner. He's physical. He's a press guy. Great ball production at Auburn. 2-year starter. Like he's done everything that you can possibly do. His tape is immaculate. There's not too many guys that did better than him. I think what happened is he has very short arms and he's undersized. But at worst, this is the NFL, the modern day pass happy NFL. You can never have too many good corners. So even if you get Caleb Farley back, okay, now you got him and Christian Fulton, and McCreary becomes your 3-down guy. Elijah Molden can now become your nickel dime guy. And you know what I'm saying? Like, and he has a niche role in there. Ferrer, he comes in. I think he starts as your right tackle. Probably kicks over to left tackle once Taylor Lewan moves on. Dylan Rayduns has a lot of empty potential right now. We really don't know what we have with him. He did well against the 49ers last year with blocking, but we don't know if that was an anomaly or if that was something a sign of things to come. Malik Willis is my favorite pick out of this draft, though. I love the Malik Willis pick, definitely where you got him, because a lot of teams passed up on him. Like Desmond Ridder, Atlanta takes Desmond Ridder. Sam Howell drops to I think the 5th or 6th round. The only one, Yeah, like the only quarterback taken in the first round is Kenny Pickett. And the Titans, Malik Willis is in a very interesting situation here because Patrick Mahomes had the same question marks as Malik Willis coming out of the draft, right? Patrick Mahomes was, he only reads one side of the field. They didn't ask him to, do all of these nuanced things at Texas Tech. Like he comes into the draft, he's a strong arm quarterback with all of these athletic gifts. What do we see? Where do we see him? And then he goes to a team in the Chiefs who have Alex Smith there. They make the playoffs. They lose. He comes back the next year. And what do we see this guy explode? I'm not saying that Malik Willis is going to come in and do that, but he has that kind of potential. And being able to learn the system behind a guy that has done it for the last 2 years or 2.5 years and made it to the AFC Championship, made it to the playoffs, and turned this Tennessee Titans team around where it looked pretty sad for us with Marcus Mariota under center. Like, I feel like this is a guy that, given 2023, 2024, he probably can be that guy for us. Hassan Haskins, a smaller Derrick Henry clone, hell of a stiff arm, shifty. He really transformed himself from last year to this year. He got a little more shifty in the hole. He'll run through you if he needs to. I like that as a third down back. I'm sorry. Okonkwo, I love it. I love the pick. I mean, you needed a tight end. You couldn't get Trey McBride. Charlie Kohler is off the board at this time. Cade Otton is off the board. Like, you had to get a guy, and you got your guy. Like, you got the athletic tight end that you needed. He's out of Maryland. He drew a lot of comparisons to Vernon Davis for a good reason, not just because they're both Terps, but the body type, the athleticism. Like, I can see where they were going with this. Kyle Phillips, like Mike said, Kyle Phillips is a great pick. Hunter Renfrow clone. He gets shifty with more or less his at the top of his routes rather than his speed. He's also a return ace. He can do that. Chance Campbell is a weird pick for me. I think it's the worst pick, even though it was at the end of the draft in the 6th round. It's the worst pick. Why? Because you have a logjam at linebacker already. You've already got you just brought in 2 guys, and then last year you drafted a guy in the 3rd round. Monty Rice is your guy. If he's your guy, then I don't see why you draft Chance Campbell, and they're literally the same player. But this is I think it's a well-rounded draft. I think they drafted for the future. I think John Robinson filled holes they needed. These guys may not pan out for another year or 2. I think we take a step back. We might go 9-8. Like, Titans might go 9-8, maybe just 10 games. Who knows? I think they fall somewhere between 7 games and 10 games this year. Winning 7 and 10 games this year. I don't think you go for the number 1 seed this year. I think you're competing for a playoff spot, wild card spot. You might get kicked out in the 1st round. Like I said, this may mirror the Chiefs, rise to fame. Like, I think that's where this is going for Tennessee. I could be wrong, but this is just the optimism for where this draft is.
Well, I'll give you a little bit more optimism if you like. What'd you say, Chris?
I said I love and I hate the Malik Willis pick, and it's just because, once again, if he sits for a year and then he develops into what everybody thinks he can develop into, because he has the highest ceiling out of all the quarterbacks in this draft, in my opinion.
True that.
And so if he develops into the quarterback that we all think he can. And I mean, I think Tennessee was a perfect situation for him because he doesn't have to start right away. And so he can sit, he can learn. And I think also, from what one of my homeboys said, he's a Titans fan, that the Titans have the same, I guess, quarterback coach that helped Deshaun Watson develop in Houston. So, with that, just having to see him 2 times a year, once again, with like Hassan Haskins and Derrick Henry, I hate it. I mean, but I love the pickups for the Titans, but I hated being a Colts fan. I mean, just being a fan, I hate it.
I understand.
Oh man, but hey, I will say this though. Give you a little bit more. I guess try to put a smile on some of the Titans fans' faces. With AJ Brown and being sad about that. Also, you got to remember that John Runyon went there. He was successful there. But you also have a string of bad luck when it comes to former Titans going to play for the Eagles or getting traded to the Eagles. We have Dorial Green-Beckham. Remember, he got traded and people didn't want him traded. He got traded for a 2nd-round pick. He didn't pan out in Philly. You got Vince Young went there. Remember when they had the dream
Don't say
team?
that one. Don't say that one.
I have to say it, man.
Blaine Bishop goes and sees
Blaine Bishop, yes.
Yeah, jump to that one. Jump to the Blaine Bishop one.
Javon Curse
goes and has the worst injury history of his career. Like
you
these are all
I call it a curse.
I see what you get there. I missed one guy, and I'm gonna let y'all the cards fall where they may. Right, Theo Jackson is a sneaky good pick here, and hear me out. Dane Cruikshank goes to Chicago. Right, he was our Swiss Army knife, big nickel coverage guy. We put him on tight ends. We put him on slot guys. He also was very good sticking his nose in the run. He was also a special teams ace. Theo Jackson comes in and is able to do that. If you looked at him at Tennessee, it was him and my other guy from Tennessee, but he played safety as well, but he was also a Swiss Army knife kind of guy. Theo Jackson comes in. He's able to play man. He's able to play in the box. He's a slighter build. He can play your nickel corner if you need him to, but he's that Dane Cruikshank replacement. I think what they got was the Dane Cruikshank replacement. He can come in. He doesn't have to play immediately. He can be a special teams ace, and then maybe next year and develop into that guy that you put in on big nickel packages. But like I said, like I think Tennessee, John Robinson, after shedding tears at the combine this year, like I think what he did was amazing. Like he took the AJ Brown situation, he took what looked like a negative on the surface and flipped it into a positive. He got 4 more picks added to what looked like a pretty abysmal draft. And he filled all the holes that we needed with young players that are cheap, that that can develop into Pro Bowl guys. And this is how teams win Super Bowls. If you look at this league, this is how teams win Super Bowls. They go and they draft guys. They don't go and just like get everybody can't be the LA Rams and go and get trade and find fantasy money and pay these guys and get a Super Bowl. Like most teams draft guys and build them in house first. So that's my take on. I love this draft.
One can argue they tried that with Julio Jones, but listen, so somebody else can say it that's not a Titans homer like yourself, Courtlandt. In this division, I feel like the Titans probably had the best draft, and not just because they have a guy named Chikozia Mukumbo on their team. That wins in itself. But let me put out my conspiracy theory real quick. I know we got to move to the Colts, but on why Malik Willis is going to work, right? People are modeling him as a Russell Wilson type personality-wise. That shows me coachability, that shows me work ethic. Everybody likes Malik Willis. Never heard a negative thing about him. He's like the opposite of Aaron Rodgers. Anyways, so you have then, as somebody, I wrote 2 years of Dolphins Wire covering Tannehill, defending Tannehill. As long as he's got protection, it's a good thing. The Titans O-line, maybe not the best in the league, but certainly in the top half. So he has that working for him. As far as comparing him to Tannehill, not even a quarterback in his entire career. Malik Willis is a better athlete, but is still that type that can throw and be mobile, which you have to be in this NFL. And then over and above that, better coaching all the way around. He's not going to be held down by a Pete Carroll or anything like that. We have seen an amazing thing from the coach that is the most successful from the Belichick tree. And by the way, when he does step in and replace Tannehill at the end of his contract or sooner, depending, Tannehill could get hurt again. That's a thing that's happened. He'll be in a position where he's not asked to do everything because that backfield is absolutely amazing. Is my theory good?
I think so. And here's the thing. I'm gonna leave y'all with this. He's not Steve McNair. He's not Aaron McNair, but he is Music City Malik. Coining that, you heard it here first.
All right. I like it.
Music City Malik. I like that. Hey, man.
Write that down.
Here we go. But yeah, definitely. I will say that, after what happened to start the draft, of course, the Titans draft is definitely a solid draft. They definitely did some good things. And, Theo Jackson's coming back to Nashville. Hopefully, like what you said, Courtlandt, it ends up happening. He kind of pans out and he's kind of the hometown hero. We'll see what happens. But we do have to move forward to the last and final team, which is those Indianapolis Colts. Now, the Indianapolis Colts did not have a first-round pick because they believed in a certain Carson Wentz. And, of course, Carson Wentz kind of let them down in the last couple of games. Of course, it wasn't all Carson Wentz. Me and Chris have had this discussion before. The whole team really didn't show up very much against Jacksonville, which they haven't won there since like 2014. But that's another story for another day. But they didn't have a first round pick, and of course they couldn't. They could did some great things, but they did some things that made me scratch my head too. But we're gonna go down the picks real quick. Second round, which was their first pick, 53rd overall, wide receiver Alec Pierce out of Cincinnati. 73rd overall, tight end Jelani Woods out of Virginia. Really like that pick. Former quarterback in high school, now big, huge tight end. 6'6", 6'7", and can move.
6'7", 265. My God.
Yes.
Yep.
You got Malik Cox and him. That's ridiculous.
Yep.
Somebody right. Somebody right.
Then you got 77th overall offensive lineman Bernard Raymond out of Central Michigan. You got 96th overall safety Nick Cross, Maryland. I like that pick. You got 159th overall defensive lineman Eric Johnson out of Missouri State. We'll talk about it. 192nd overall tight end Andrew Ogletree, Youngstown State. I'm gonna talk about that one too. And 216th overall defensive tackle Curtis Brooks Cincy. We're not gonna talk about him. He do got two Cincy teammates, but what I will say is, looking at Alec Ogletree, did they really draft a 6th round tight end to play goal line? Because watching his tape, he doesn't really get off the line very good, and he literally he can catch the ball, but he just doesn't have very much explosiveness. And I got one more for you before you respond. All right, Eric Johnson. Why? Those are the two I got, and I'm like,
So I'm scratching my head at the Andrew Ogletree pick as well, just because we already have what's his name, Colin Grayson on roster that we picked last year.
Yeah, the guy you don't like, right?
Yeah, the guy I don't like, because he can't run block, so that's why I don't like him. Miley Cox, we have him on roster. Then we, Jelani Woods. I was ecstatic about that pick. I've been hoping we got Jelani Woods ever since the beginning of all this started. So the fact that we was able to get him out, I love that pick. But so I really don't understand the Andrew Ogletree pick. I guess it's to add depth. And honestly, we don't need him at goal line because we have Miley Cox and we have Jelani Woods, who are both 6'6", 6'7". Miley Cox played basketball. Like, he can high point the ball. He can, he grab rebounds, all of that stuff. So he can do all of that on the goal line. So I really don't understand why we got Andrew Ogletree. Eric Johnson, I think, is just to add depth to that defensive line, because we have Gus Bradley as our defensive coordinator. He loves to have fresh legs in a defensive line, especially a defensive tackle where we, give DeForest Buckner a breather, and stuff like that. So I figure that's why we went with him. I don't really like us double dipping at tight end, double dipping at defensive tackle, but I can understand it just because from the simple fact that having those fresh legs going in every play or every other player or whatever, it helps the Colts in that respect, especially in Gus Bradley's new defense where, it is one high safety, covered 3 shell, and that's what he likes to run, send 4 down linemen, and he doesn't really send his backers. He doesn't blitz a lot. We saw that in Vegas. We saw that with Seattle. Saw that in Jacksonville, where he doesn't like to blitz a lot. So I kind of think that's why we double dip at defensive tackle. And I don't really think we have much depth behind. I mean, we had DeForest Buckner, Grover Stewart, Eric Johnson, and RJ McIntosh. So, I mean, we don't have much depth at defensive tackle. So I can see that's why they probably did it. And we know he likes the defensive line or the defensive tackles that can play 1 tech or 3 tech. And, that's kind of where I guess that's where they're going with those 2 picks.
Question for you. I do have, or a theory, I should say, about Andrew Ogletree. I've got a theory why they drafted him. It's not a crazy one. It's actually one that's got some sense with this one. I'm thinking he's a big, slow guy. He's a slower guy at tight end. I'm not going to say he's a big, slow guy, but he's a slower guy at tight end, doesn't really get out the blocks very well. What I'm thinking is maybe they saw him run blocking in some aspects. Maybe they're going to put weight on him and move him to offensive tackle. But
Yeah, and
that's a big question.
that could definitely be.
Is he lined up in the slot? So that's the hole in that theory. But then again, you never know.
Here's the issue with the Ogletree pick, though. When you say that, right? Here's the hole in that theory. He's not a great run blocker. His run blocker
exactly.
His run blocker is very poor. And the thing is a lot of times when I was watching his tape, because he was one of the guys I was looking at for Tennessee, and I looked at him and I saw him getting whiffed, literally moved out of the way by cornerbacks. I was like, this is a problem for a man who's 6'7", 250 pounds. That's a problem. That's not an issue that you had with Jalen Werdemeyer, which has dropped in the draft because of his blocking questions. You didn't see that happen when he locked in on DBs and even some smaller outside linebackers. He actually was able to hold his own. This kid is moving, like he said. They got the guy Grayson or Granderson on the roster from last year, who's literally the same. Like he's not a great run blocker. He's a bigger, slower guy who's a crafty route runner and can catch the ball. I just don't see why you do it if you have Jelani Woods and Miley Cox, who are both giants that you can
and they're good in run blocking.
Right.
Yeah, like you can run 11 personnel. Like you can literally run 11 personnel and run Jonathan Taylor behind those two monsters off the edge and kill DBs and outside linebackers with his speed and power, and then throw it over the top on play action plays with their size. I just don't see why you did it. Maybe this is what's the GM's name? I can't think of his name right now.
Chris Ballard.
Ballard. Maybe this is Ballard doing that thing where he like gets guys who are projects and hopes that they like develop.
And that's what I was gonna say. I mean, he's a 6th round pick. So at this point, you're getting fillers at this point, really. So getting Andrew Ogletree is kind of like, okay, he's a project. Maybe we can develop him and get him to the point that we want him to be at. Because if Miley Cox leaves in 2 years, because we re-signed him, he was a free agent this year or whatever. So, maybe he can take that Miley Cox role if we can develop him. So I don't know. I mean, and also we drafted a safety in the 7th round. So like these dudes are just fillers. I honestly, right there, I would have loved for us to get like Tariq Woolen or something like that. But I think Zion and Tariq were off the board because I know the Bucks picked Zion and then Seattle picked Tariq, which I hate them for that because I wanted him at corner, like 6'4" corner. Once again, Gus Bradley, he loves rangy corners. Man or not man press, but the press bell technique, that's what he loves. He's a raw talent, very explosive. So I would have, he ran like a 4.26, had a 40-inch vert. He was a former receiver that they converted to corner. So I mean, he's very raw at the position, and you can mold him into what you want him to be, which is why I see why Pete Carroll got him, because that's what Pete loves. Just like Gus, just like Robert Saleh, just like the rest of them dudes that are from that tree. So I would have loved to get him at that pick, but he was gone. So I guess it's just one of the dudes that was on their tree that their board that they wanted to get in as a prospect. But we did get Rodney Thomas, the second out of Yale, with our 7th round pick. Another 6'2" guy, runs like a 4.5 40. He's explosive as well, had like a 40-inch vert, but I think he's another filler where maybe special teams, but also when you have Kari Willis coming back from injury, you have Julian Blackman coming back from that Achilles tear last year. You need some depth at that position because you saw last year our secondary kept getting banged up every game, and we didn't really have much depth out there. So to be able to draft some more depth, I kind of like that pick. I didn't see much tape on him out of Yale, but that was our last pick of this draft. So
there is one dark horse in Mike's theory with Ogletree that I think needs to be addressed. If I remember correctly, your quarterback room now features a certain stone-footed individual from Atlanta. Yes.
Yep.
So with that in mind, you mentioned something about a crafty route runner. He might be a horrible pass blocker, but it might be a situation where he's going to be kind of developed, if you will, into a situation where they can show a look and people are going to think Jonathan Taylor, and then he's out in space and that veteran is going to find it. Listen, This is a guy who in his career, I don't remember if he and TJ Dockett played together, but they were still playing fullbacks back in the day when he got drafted in Atlanta. So this is something that could be kind of in that piece, right? Maybe that's the direction they're going. But I'll grant this: if we're overanalyzing 6-round picks like this, it's not bad for a team that didn't have a first-round pick.
Yeah, let me throw this in real quick. Let me throw this in real quick. We've kind of given the best draft in the division to the wrong team. I literally think that it might be the Colts, because if I look at draft grades, now not names, but just look at talent, they only had 2 kind of questionable picks, and one of them is a 6-rounder. The first one is their 2nd-round pick. Everything else hit a need as far as talent goes. And by the way, they weren't far off from making the playoffs and giving Tennessee, who was the number 1 seed in the AFC, a run for their money. Quietly, they fixed their problem without having to do it in the draft. And that's at quarterback.
So one thing for me, like, I love the Alec Pierce pick. I love that pick because I wanted Christian Watson. Christian Watson was gone. Green Bay had traded up. They took him. We needed to fix our wide receiver room. So I love that pick because behind Michael Pittman Jr., we didn't have anything, to be honest. I mean, you got Paris Campbell, who is dynamic when he's playing, but he can't stay healthy. 15 games in 3 years is terrible. So you're not really putting too many eggs in that basket. Alec Pierce addresses a need to where we can line him up at slot. We can line him up to the outside or on the other side of Michael Pittman. And then we get Jelani Woods, of course. Raymond, he's a left tackle. Like, that's his position. He's a left tackle. We needed a left tackle. We addressed that. Now he is a raw project because he didn't start playing football till late in his life. But he has nice feet. Yeah, he was tight end. He has nice feet. Footwork, which that can help. So I mean, I like those 3 picks. I love the trade up to get Nick Cross because once again, we didn't have a pick into the 2nd round. We had, I believe, we traded back in the 2nd round. Actually, we traded back, and that's how we ended up getting Alec Pierce. And then I believe we had 1 3rd round, or maybe we did have the 2, but we did have 2 3rd rounders because we traded back in to get that to get Nick Cross. So those 4 picks, I feel like they addressed the needs that we needed. Like they addressed everything we needed at that point. Now I would love to get another inside backer because we don't really have much behind Bobby. I would have loved to get a corner. Like I said, I wanted Tyreek Woolen late or Zion McCullum. I even would have loved Josh Jobe, but seeing as he hasn't been drafted yet, maybe we can get him as an undrafted free agent.
Still might, right?
Yeah. So there's other things to come, and I think that's where really Chris Ballard makes his money. Those mid rounds, so like 2nd, 3rd, 4th round, he makes his money there. And then undrafted free agents getting dudes in, after the draft. That's where Chris Ballard really shines. So, in Ballard we trust, we always say. So, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, one more quick thing. And I'm sorry, I apologize. One more quick thing. If Mike Vrabel wasn't in the AFC South, the head coach in Indianapolis would be the best coach in the division by far. Sure. And one thing that we say about him down here is he develops players. And again, projects for him are not like projects for, I hate to say the former guy, Bill O'Brien. He doesn't develop players. But, Frank develops players, offensive and defensive. So, again, there's a lot that could come out of this draft that we all may be looking around and say, damn, Indy hit on that again. They hit on that one too. They hit on that one too. Your coach and your coaching staff develops players.
One thing I do wonder, I do wonder about I know Chris mentioned the wide receiver room. I know people have mentioned the wide receiver room. I just wonder, is Alex Pierce enough? Or are they going to add more to that? Because I like Alex Pierce. I like Pittman Jr., but they need more. So that's why.
No, 100%. We do need more. And I mean, there's once again undrafted free agents. There's still guys that haven't been drafted yet. The draft is almost over, so we're gonna look at that and see what happens. I think they believe a lot in Michael Strawn, our 6th round pick from last year. I mean, he's 6'4", runs like a 4.3. So we have another guy, another big body. And I think last year he was dealing with some injuries, and that's why he didn't touch the field a lot. So I mean, it's all about their development. We still have Desmond Patton. We still
No relation
have,
to me, by the way.
we still
Mike's
have,
cousin.
I say we're quitting out there. We got to make that designation, bro.
yeah, and then we have Ashton Doolin, who we brought back as well. So, you know, Carson Wentz had his struggles last year, but with Matt Ryan, I think you see Ashton Doolin maybe take a step forward, because there's a lot of concepts that are going to come back from when Phillip Rivers was the quarterback that Matt Ryan could run that Carson Wentz struggled with, which is a lot of the stuff over the middle of the field, the mesh concepts and stuff like that. Matt Ryan can prevail in that. He can prevail with throwing the ball down the field. So it's going to help our wide receiver room, but I think we're going to, you know, add some more to just boost up that competition in that room.
Chris, what are y'all doing with Kiki Kuti?
Huh?
What are y'all doing with Kiki Kuti?
I don't know.
So let me just say this. That young man sat in Bill O'Brien's doghouse and was probably the second best wide receiver on the team. And when O'Brien got gone and they brought Kuti in and he got to play because of injury, he was the best wide receiver on the field. So, again, don't know what kind of shape he's in. He does have health problems, but you might have a diamond in the rough there if he gets a chance and he stays healthy.
Yeah. Well, that was my question. So, like with Alec Pierce, right? I like him. What he did at Cincinnati last year was amazing. I thought he was a Cooper Kupp clone. He's a long strider. He runs okay routes. They're not quite Cooper Kupp-esque. Like Cooper Kupp is like Marvin Harrison.
He's like the Kroger Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, he is.
What I was going to say is T.Y. Hilton is still floating around. He hasn't been signed. No one's taken the flyer on him yet. And I mean, though T.Y. Hilton is older, he's way past his prime. Come on now, like it's kind of makes me wonder, like, is Indianapolis still in play there? Because with Alec Pierce, you don't have to play T.Y. on the outside as the number one guy anymore. You can play him in that slot role. You can give him that Harry Douglas kind of role where Matt Ryan was in his early years, where he was spreading the ball around, which is why Harry Douglas ended up in Tennessee and raping us for money for 4 years. So you know what I'm saying? So like what I'm saying is I know I'm coaching, I'm kind of betting against the grain here and kind of going against the house here, but T.Y. Hilton returning to Indianapolis makes me really fear them.
It's not far-fetched for him to return because I mean I've seen some stuff today where he was like, let me think about it. Him thinking about really him coming back. So, it's not far-fetched. I think they will extend the offer to him. We still have some money left. Don't be surprised if Jarvis Landry decides to take less money and we bring him in. That's another option as well.
I'll sway.
So, it's some things out there that I believe Chris Ball is working on, but, we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Also, dark horse, y'all, don't charge this to my heart. Don't be surprised if Baltimore goes and grabs a T.Y. Hilton to bring him in to replace what they lost to, because Lamar Jackson.
I wouldn't be surprised at that either.
Yeah,
I mean, it's something
I know
that happened with Derek
AFC
Mason.
South, but,
yeah. Yep.
Well, we'll see what happens. Oh, by the way, before we end this, we do have to mention, I believe we had 4 HBCU players drafted in this year's draft, which, yeah.
Outstanding.
Yes, definitely. And, with the partnership that Aflac and Deion Sanders have going on, I think there will be more coming next year.
Agreed.
Oh, yes.
Had to mention that.
What's his son's
What's
name?
That?
Whis son's?
Shador.
Shador. Yeah. Shador. Watch out for that. And because he is a clone of his father at the cornerback position. That man can really play ball.
Shiloh's nice, man. I will say this, definitely. I don't think we heard TSU announced, but hey, they've got some players coming too. But the TSU up here, as they say, AJ.
I know what you meant. I know the audience.
DTSU, man. DTSU.
Yeah,
Ouch. Let me go change my shirt.
I want to thank everybody for coming on. First, I'm gonna start with you, Courtlandt, man. Let everybody know where you are, what you're working on, and where they can find you on social media.
Oh man, definitely. So you can find me at the 3-point conversion, y'all. You can also find me on Twitter at DC Griffey. If you just catch me on there, I'm tweeting. I'm very controversial with my hot takes. I say a lot of things. I say what's on my mind. I don't bite my tongue. I'm a Titans homer. I wear it proudly as my badge of honor. But also, man, just look for me on 3-point conversion. I'll be doing the winners and losers here soon. Hopefully we can get that out within the next week or so. Draft winners and losers. You are going to hate me for some of my takes on that, but I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you, Mike, for bringing me on, man. It's always a pleasure. Man, y'all have been great, man. Kyle already know, like, man, that's my guy, Kyle. I'm fresh to AJ Jones and Chris, but man, y'all really brought some fresh takes, man. I really like how y'all articulated with y'all thoughts, man. I appreciate y'all.
Thanks, man.
Appreciate it.
All right, Kyle, you're up next, man.
Fellas, an honor, joy, and privilege. Of course, I am Kyle Nash, the student of the game. You can find me on Twitter at the SOTG. Find me on Instagram as the same, the SOTG. Find me on Facebook as the student of the game. Check out my work, of course, with the 3pointconversion.com. And, of course, my other work with the UCF Knights, covering basketball and football alike on the black and gold banneret. And also my work covering the Jacksonville Jaguars on the 3-point conversion and A7BN Sports as well. And of course, I dabble in movies and such too on Hilarity by Default on YouTube. Check that out. Hey, listen, man, it can't just be about sports, but sometimes we need a break from draft weekend is grueling. Okay. But anyways, honor, joy, and privilege, gentlemen. This panel is great. I've talked with two of you for the first time here. This was a great discussion. We know our stuff, apparently, because we're talking about 6th-round picks in depth. It was great. But until next time, everyone, class dismissed.
I love it.
AJ.
Hey, man, again, I appreciate it. Thank you, Mike, for having me on. You know what I think about you, man. You're brilliant. You got great concepts and talent. I'm always grateful to be on. Courtlandt, it was a pleasure meeting you. Kyle, pleasure meeting you. Chris as well. My wife is from Indianapolis. She's a Colts fan. I think I reeled her in by inviting her to a Colts game before I ever asked her out. So the rest is, as they say, history. You can find me on the lunch break. I also just started Jones Media and Entertainment, and we bring visions and dreams to screens and streams. So again, if you guys ever need any of that, let me know. I'm glad to be a part of it. But again, thank you for allowing me to be here today.
Hold on, before you go, Chris. AJ, you know I'm not going to let you go without talking about where else you at.
Wait, say that again?
I'm not going to let you go without telling everyone where else you're at.
Where else am I? No, tell me, where else am I?
That's how you know he's busy. He's got to ask you.
We're not going to talk about Roku?
Oh, yeah. We are streaming live on Roku TV, courtesy of BS3 TV for the BS3 TV app. You can download us there. But, Mike, I got something about to happen, brother. It's going to blow your mind. So give me till next Wednesday, and you'll be like, oh, I see where you're at.
I look forward to it.
Thank you, man.
Appreciate you having me on, Mike. Appreciate it being part of this panel and everything. You know, all of y'all are great. But you know, you can find me on Twitter at DropBallsPod. That's where I do most of my stuff at. I, like Courtlandt said, I have some crazy sports takes as well. You know, I talk my mess on. I talk my mess. Sometimes it comes true. Sometimes it doesn't. You know, it is what it is. But you know, it's a method to my madness. But you can also find my podcast, Drop Balls Podcast, on every major podcast platform, Spotify, Google, Apple Podcasts, all of the above. That's where I do my stuff at as well, and YouTube or Drop Balls Podcast on YouTube as well. I got to get busy dropping some more videos on that. I'll probably do a Colts recap of our draft. But yeah, that's where everybody can find me at.
Well, everyone, thank you. Everyone's listened and watched. Thank you as well. Of course, it's been a special episode of Touring the AFC South, the 2022 draft special, covering all things AFC South. I'm your host, Mike Patton, and we are out.